Hi there, Andrew Dunkley again, the host of the Space Nuts podcast, and we are happy to bring you yet another episode. This is a Q&A episode where we'll be answering questions about the life that they think they may have found, possibly could be dono on K2-18b, gravity and gravitons, the Swan Comet, and hopefully not the Swan Song Comet, boom, boom, and fake news. That's all coming up in this episode of Space Nuts.
15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 10, 9, ignition sequence start.
Space Nuts.
5, 4, 3, 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Space Nuts.
Astronauts reported.
Sure does. And with me, as always, is Professor Fred Watson, astronomer at large. Hello, Fred.
Hello, Andrew. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Yes. Still sort of getting back down to earth because it's only 2 minutes since we did the last episode. Frank. So yeah, still getting over the jet lag, but that'll pass. Didn't get seasick. I didn't mention that before in the last episode. Didn't get seasick at all. I think we only had one day where we hit some big swells, and the captain came on and said, as you can see, the seas are rather busy today. Those waves are 14 feet high. I thought, 14-foot waves.
Yeah,
You had a board with me at the time, so not that you need one where I live. But yeah, it was a good ship. Very nice ship, very good staff, had a great time. And yeah, I won't go through all the things we did, but I will point out one thing, nothing to do with astronomy, but we'd been to Las Vegas before, 15 years ago, and we were, it's a sensory overload. You spend a couple of days there and you just can't wait to get out. It's just so in your face. We went back this time, and we didn't say it to each other until after we left, but we both felt the same, that it's lost some of its mystique. And I put that down to the fact that a lot of the casinos had all sorts of things to try and get people in, like the Magic Garden and dolphin pools and white lions, and MGM Casino had lions in the casino living in I don't know, habitats that were built into the structure of the casino complex. It was really quite impressive, and notwithstanding what the animal rights activists probably thought. That's all gone.
Oh.
Most of that's gone. You know what they've put in their place?
I've no idea.
Sports bars.
Okay.
Sports. You walk into a giant room that has umpteen televisions covering the space of a theatre screen, and just lists and lists of odds, and a bar with 10,000 different kinds of drinks, and people just sitting there betting on the whatever, any sport you can think of. Ice hockey, I think, was the flavour of the month while we were there. Yeah, and we just walked away and went, gee, that's sad. Yes, it's sad. It's just, and the one of the big casinos there called the Mirage is gone. It's just gone. It's just flat ground there. They've completely demolished it, and they're going to replace it with a Hard Rock. You've heard of Hard Rock cafes? They're going to have a Hard Rock casino.
Okay.
Unbelievable. But yeah, anyway, that's beside the point. We've got some questions to get to, Fred. And we might as well get stuck straight into it. I'm going to read them all today because I've been away and I cleared the decks. So if you've got questions, send them in, because I have absolutely wiped the slate clean. If you had a question in and we didn't answer it, that's on me. Send me your hate mail, because I'm starting from scratch. Fresh material from next Q&A episode onwards. So send them in via our website. So first one from Martin Berman Gorvine of Potomac, Maryland. Hello, Space Nuts. That's what I won't do it. Author and writer extraordinaire. He asked about the recent buzz surrounding the possible detection of life on exoplanet K2-18b, specifically dimethyl sulphide. Did I say that right? Which could be a biosignature. And while acknowledging it's too early to draw any big conclusions, but that hasn't stopped the popular press. I threw that in, not Martin. Martin playfully wonders if life is found there, might they grant asylum to a struggling American sci-fi writer disillusioned with Earth?
Away with words.
He does. He does. Now I know you covered K2-18b the other day with Heidi, but has there been any more information about it?
I think what's happened is it's basically caused a lot of serious reflection among the science community and the philosophy community as well, who've muscled into this with quite understandably, as to what we're really doing here, what we're looking for when we're looking for evidence of alien life. And I think there are two aspects of this. One is, first of all, there is still some doubt about the actual detection of these compounds, these molecules. There are two of them that have been found. So the authors claim the authors come from the US and the UK. Yeah. Dimethyl sulphide and dimethyl disulphide. Those are the two, which on Earth are products of the environment caused by phytoplankton, those little microbes that live in water. And the authors of the paper have drawn a few strings here. This is a world that's actually bigger than Earth. It's about 8.6 times the mass of the Earth, about 2.6 times the diameter of Earth. Yeah. And the authors believe that this is something called a Haitian world. And the Haitian world, it's a great word actually, is an amalgamation of hydrogen and ocean. It's basically an ocean world with a hydrogen atmosphere. Wow. So it's been called a Haitian world. We think they exist, and the authors of this paper think that they've got evidence to suggest that K2-18b is actually a Haitian world. Now, there are other authors who've stepped in and said, wait a minute, we think it's too hot for that. We think it's got volcanic activity and it's not a world with an ocean at all. So that's a moot point. But the detection of these chemicals, the DMS as it's called, and DMDS, the abbreviations for them because it's too hard to say, dimethyl sulphide, they are those detections themselves are in some doubt because they're at a confidence level. Yes, it's 99.7% certain, but that's not the pretty well 100% that science demands. No. And so there's still uncertainty about that. So that's one aspect, that maybe this is a misidentification of features in the spectrum of the atmosphere of K2-18b. But the other side of it is one or two people have pointed out that these chemicals have been detected in the gaseous envelopes of comets. Now, on Earth, yes, they only come from biological activity, but where they're going to come from on a comet whose temperature is minus 200 degrees Celsius, so there's got to be chemical reactions that are independent of life that will actually generate these what have been called biomarkers. And so the question is, are they biomarkers at all, or are we just clutching at straws? Yeah, one of the articles I read, I really liked the term. It was something to the effect that we've been hunting for needles in a haystack, and is this just a particularly sharp piece of hay that they've found? And that could be the case. It's very nicely put. So that's where the philosophers have come in and said, we've no idea what alien life might look like. And to sort of, in many ways, blinker ourselves so that we're only looking for things that are found on Earth that are markers of biological activity. maybe we have to be looking much broader, in a much broader sense. Now, people have said this for a long time, but I think this particular discovery has really heightened the concentration of philosophers coming in on this. There's a very interesting article on the conversation, and its title is "Scientists Claim to Have Found Evidence of Alien Life, but Biosignatures Might Hide More Than They Reveal." And that comes from a scientist who is actually a PhD candidate in the philosophy of biology at Sydney University. So this is philosophy rather than science, but it's a scientific article, and it makes the point that maybe what we should be looking for is not life as we know it, but life as we don't know it,
Yes.
because it could be different.
Yes, we've talked about that before. That we make, I suppose, logically make assumptions that life elsewhere might just be like it is on Earth, but it might be so alien to us we probably wouldn't even notice it.
Yep.
If we don't know what we're looking for. So
on the other hand, the other side of this coin is all we can look for is biosignatures as we think we interpret them from Earth.
Yeah.
So we've got a few interesting steps to take here. So I think that the K2-18b story has yet to run quite a long way. I think there'll be more observations of it, maybe with the James Webb, but certainly with the ESO ELT when that comes on stream, the 39-meter optical telescope. That will probably give us a much firmer view of whether DMS and DMDS are actually in the atmosphere. But the philosophy of what we're looking for, I think, is perhaps almost the more interesting aspect of this.
It kind of reminds me of the recent discovery that they announced about the atmosphere of Venus.
Yes.
And that was ultimately debunked, but I think it's been undebunked again.
Yeah, yes, it has. Yeah, that's right. But it's still very, very controversial. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But again, that was phosphine, wasn't it?
It was. But once again, phosphine is only a biomarker under certain circumstances. And, that's the thing. There may be natural causes of it in the atmosphere of Venus. It's the same situation. It was, first of all, a very perhaps adventurous identification of a chemical that you found, because the data really don't match up to it yet. Yeah. That coupled with the fact that there may be other ways that this compound can be formed.
No, it is fascinating. I was just reading some of the headlines of the major outlets that have latched onto this story, and it goes to what Fenton is asking us about it. There's save that one till last because it's my favourite topic at the moment. So we'll get into that. But and that Venus story pops up in the list of fake news stories, but fake news is a terrible way to describe it. These were probably genuine attempts to come up with theories and ideas, and some of them missed the mark. So, yeah, fake news is, I don't know who popularised that. But anyway, we'll carry on. Martin probably knows who it was. Thank you, Martin. Great to hear from you. Different, unusual, but always welcome. Let's take a short break from the show to tell you about our sponsor, Insta360. Now, as you know, and particularly if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, I love taking photos. On our recent trip, I was just in photo heaven. I always look for the perfect shot. I got it on this holiday with a whale breaching. So, I love photography. So I was really excited to see that our new sponsor, Insta360, sells cameras and all the gear that goes with cameras. But it's not just cameras. I mean, this is top quality gear. And I'll tell you how to look at their equipment very, very soon. There's also a special deal for Space Nuts listeners. So get ready for that. Now, Insta360 is a leader in 360-degree action camera technology. Now, 360-degree photography, that's pretty new to me. And I'll explain more about it. Their latest 360-degree camera, the Insta360 X5, has only just been launched, April 22nd, and it shoots full 360-degree videos in 8K 30 resolution. That's pretty amazing. It's mind-blowing, actually. I love the way technology is advancing and becoming available to people like us. So this new camera films in all directions at once. You don't need to aim the camera, just hit record. You can live in the moment. You can choose the angles you want in the edit system on the Insta360 mobile app. It's very easy. It's quick, and it's got AI technology, AI tools that'll just make the job so much easier and faster. And you can take immersive point of view shots, third person shots. The X5 is just about every camera you'll ever need, all wrapped up into one beautiful little package. And the AAA chip is very efficient, and that means seriously smooth operational performance. Plus huge sensors and a dedicated low light shooting mode that'll deliver unmatched detail and quality day and night. X5 also features Insta360's toughest ever lenses, which are completely replaceable. So you can, take that risk if you really want to get this great shot, but you're worried about the camera. You can replace the bit. Now, as a part of this launch, and as Space Nuts listeners, there's a special offer for you. To get hold of the offer, which is a 114 centimetre invisible selfie stick worth about $24.99 US, with your Insta360 X5 standard package purchase, all you have to do is go to store.insta360.com and use the promo code SpaceNuts. Now, this is for the first 30 standard package purchases only by Space Nuts listeners. That's a 114 centimetre invisible selfie stick worth $24.99 US with your Insta360 X5 standard package purchase. Don't forget the URL, store.insta360.com, and the promo code is SpaceNuts. Go and have a look at their website and see what they've got to offer. It's amazing gear, and we'll put more information in the show notes. That's Insta360, store.insta360.com. Now back to the show.
Roger, you're loud and clear here also.
Space Nuts.
Next question comes from James. We're not sure where James is, but I'm sure he knows where he is. This is about gravity and gravitons. The Higgs particle generates the field that gives other particles mass. Gravity is a property of mass, directly proportional to the mass of an object. In other words, why do we need another particle, as in a graviton, to provide gravity? That's a good one.
It is, yes, it is a good one. And certainly the particle physicists do see these as two completely separate things. The Higgs particle was proposed as being something that the other particles needed back in, I think it was 1966 or 1967, by Peter Higgs at the University of Edinburgh, who I think he died only a couple of years ago, if I remember rightly. And I mean, the graviton is still a hypothetical particle, but it's different from what the Higgs does. The way to interpret the Higgs is very much as the particle that, exactly as James says, it generates the field that gives particles mass, and the field is like a force field. The way I read a lovely interpretation of this, that if you imagine something like a marble moving around in space, then it's moving freely, and you don't really have anything to sense its mass. But if you put it in a jar of treacle or honey, then the treacle or the honey actually mimics the Higgs field. And it provides a resistance which is proportional to the mass of the particle. And so the Higgs particle, this is my understanding of it. I'm not a particle physicist, and I don't think I'm explaining this particularly well, but it has a different function from what the hypothetical graviton has, which would be transmitting another field, the field of gravity. That's a field as well, but would have different characteristics from the Higgs particle, providing the gravitation. I suspect James is not going to be convinced by my explanation here, because his question, why do we need another particle to provide gravity? All I'm saying is that gravity is a different thing from the Higgs field, and so we need another particle for it. But I hope you'll take that, and perhaps James, follow up on some of the stuff you can find online that really talks about the difference between these particles.
License.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say, the first thing I'd Google will be, what's the difference between a Higgs particle and a graviton? I haven't done that because I haven't had time, but that's right.
And Peter Higgs died last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah, April the 10th. So just over a year. So.
Yes, much missed. He was a great man.
Yes, indeed he was. Thank you, James. This is Space Nuts. You're with Andrew Dunkley and Professor Fred Watson. Now, a word from our sponsor, NordVPN. And I've spoken to you many times about Nord products and the benefits of a virtual private network. And Judy and I were overseas recently, as you know, in South America and the United States, and I was using a lot of data to get around. But, of course, we had to do money transfers and things like that from time to time because, it turned out to be a rather expensive trip with the collapse of the Australian dollar. But to do that, I used a virtual private network to screen what I was doing, and I used NordVPN. And, of course, as a Space Nuts listener, you get an exclusive deal with them as a Space Nuts listener, including that 30-day money-back guarantee. Just go to their URL, nordvpn.com/spacenuts, and click on Get the Deal to find out all about it. Don't forget they're offering an extra 4 months if you sign up. And there are various deals. There's 2-year plans, 1-year plans, or you can pay month by month. But obviously, the longer you sign up, the cheaper it gets. And the basic plan translates to about $4.23 a month Australian on a 2-year plan. That's a saving of 74% on the basic package. If you go with their plus package, it's about $5.49 a month Australian. And these all include the extra 4 months. If you get the complete package, it's less than $7 a month, and you get all the extra bits and bobs with it in those last 2 packages, including a terabyte of cloud storage, the password manager, which I just absolutely adore. I've told you many times. There's a breach scanner as well, which works brilliantly, the ad and tracker blocker, the anti-malware and browsing protection, and, of course, your virtual private network, which is the most secure in the industry. So how do you get it? Well, you just go to that URL, nordvpn.com/spacenuts, click on Get the Deal, and go from there. Decide what works best for you. You might just want a VPN service. You can do that. Or you can add on a few other things as you see fit. That's nordvpn.com/spacenuts. And don't forget the keyword Space Nuts when you go to the checkout. So check it out today at nordvpn.com/spacenuts. Now, back to the show.
Okay, we checked all 4 systems and skiing with a go.
Space Nuts.
Next question comes from Ted. No known location, no known abode. It reminds me, though, Fred, when we, no, I hope this is not a reflection on Ted at all, but when we were in Las Vegas, I was walking across the street and there was a homeless guy in a wheelchair on the opposite side. And I was walking straight towards him and he had a sign and next to it a bottle for people to put in tips. And you read the sign and it honestly, I can't say it because it's got a nasty word in it, but it was something word Trump. And you can figure it out for yourself. Yeah, but if you agreed with him, you gave him a tip. If you didn't, you just kept walking.
So he's a rich man.
No, well, he had quite a few handfuls of change when I went past. But that's beside the point. But Ted wants to know, I've been observing the Swan Comet every morning for the last few days. Please discuss this if you have not already done so. Well, I'm going to ask you anyway, Fred, because I was interested in it. What's the latest?
Yeah, it's we haven't discussed it already, so it's a timely question from Ted, and great to hear, Ted, that you've been observing it, because it's not an easy object to observe. It's quite faint. It's certainly below naked eye visibility. Its full name is C2025F2 Swan, and it's a morning object at the moment. I haven't observed it. I'm not a morning person because astronomers aren't generally, unless there's an object like Swan that they really want to see. But yes, it's an interesting object because it's quite bluish in color. The observations that you can see made with relatively small telescopes definitely give it a bluish tinge. It's got a tail that is very, very thin. I haven't seen images of its tail, but I believe it's very, very thin, and it's roughly a degree or so long. But good on Ted for observing it. It's probably fading. Although not apparently fading as fast as some observers have expected.
Yeah, some articles are describing it as green, but they've represented the different objects being different colours.
Yes, that
from John sent me some images the other day of what was probably a meteor or meteorite scraping our what do you call it? Atmosphere. Yes. And it was green, bright green. But they're not always colour.
Yeah. So that's from the oxygen in the upper atmosphere that you get from a fireball or a meteor. And yeah, I think blue comes, if I remember rightly, I've probably got this wrong, carbon monoxide in a comet.
Okay.
Or that might be the green. I can't remember. But yes, the colour is essentially, it means it's telling you something about the gases that make up the frozen gases that make up the comet, because that's what they are. They're balls of frozen gas.
Green comets glow primarily due to a molecule called diatomic carbon.
Yes, that's right. Indeed.
And the emission of blue light is, it just says ionized gases such as carbon monoxide.
Yeah, so at least I got that one right.
1 over 3, you're doing well.
Yeah. But I haven't seen the comet, but thank you very much for raising it with Space Notes. It's nice to have a mention of it too.
We've had quite a glut of comets lately, haven't we?
Yeah, it's not been bad. That's right.
And especially those big ones that threaten us. But anyway, we'll not go there. Thank you, Ted. Lovely to hear from you. Finally, we're going to discuss something that has been brought up by Fenton in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been an enthusiastic follower of your podcast for several years and have no doubt about the quality of your knowledge. I was laughing at myself then. Analyses and conclusions which you reach during the discussions, even when you infer I don't know. He's talking about you there. I just came across the following layperson article which voices an opinion on sensational results which make it into the popular press. Several examples pertain to astronomy and astrophysics. Is it worth commenting on this phenomenon in your podcasts? That comes from Fenton. Thank you, Fenton. Fenton's a regular. Lovely to hear from you. This is something Jonty Horner talked about while he filled in for you a couple of months ago. And he was very, very scathing on the way the popular press misinterprets or just goes for the sensationalist headline. And I think we've seen it a bit with the life on the other planet that we talked about earlier, K2-18b. There's been a bit of that going on. A lot of them have actually been very good and said, look, we don't know. This is what scientists are hoping and thinking and studying, but it's not confirmed. But others have gone, oh, life on another planet. Boom. End of story. Not true. Or they probably put it in the last paragraph. That happens a lot, unfortunately, Fred. I know where Jonty stands. I'm sure your thoughts are probably similar.
They're similar. That's right. It's partly as scientists, in many ways, it's partly our own fault, because we do tend to couch things in maybes and perhapses and possibilities. And of course, that's what the media pick up on.
Yep.
It is hard to avoid that, I think. We have to be careful that, I mean, the story we discussed a few minutes ago about K2-18b, a quote from the lead author of the paper was that he says that the most obvious interpretation of the discovery is that the planet K2-18b is a Haitian world teeming with life, and that's throwing, it's just throwing a grenade into the media, because they'll pick up on that, and that's the headline: teeming with life. But we've got absolutely no evidence for that. Even if the observations of these chemicals is confirmed, it's still not proof of living organisms. And so to say it's teeming with life, I mean, he didn't say it's teeming with life. He said the simplest interpretation of what they found is that that's the case. Yeah. But that does not mean it is the case. And yes, the media pick up on that. I'm also reminded, as well as the sorts of discoveries like the phosphine on Venus and all of the other things, it seems to be happening less often now. But for a while, almost every month, we got a picture of a doorway on Mars, or a tire on Mars, a truck tire. There was one which was a bowler hat on Mars, so somebody who had been abducted. All of that, which we now know is this phenomenon called pareidolia, where we look at things and say, oh, that looks like a bowler hat, or that looks like a tire.
We humanize everything.
We humanize it, yes. Yeah. And that's a great generator of fake news. Absolutely great.
Is what? The article that Fenton sent us, I had a look at, and it's got a few examples of fake news. And as someone who worked in the media for 40 years, I'm very much aware of how some journalists operate, not all, but some don't have the integrity to just stick with the facts. They want clickbait, I think is the modern term for it. And the writer of this article, very astute, gives examples of what turned out to be untrue situations, citing 2014 astronomers announced a whopper of a discovery: primordial waves from the earliest moments of the Big Bang. The South Pole Telescope results validated a long-standing but still shaky hypothesis of cosmic inflation. Turned out to be nuts.
Yes.
And there's a couple of stories like that. Tabby's star in 2015 with its strange light pattern. And, the popular press latched on to the possibility that it was surrounded by a megastructure built by aliens.
A Dyson sphere, that's right.
Yeah, it was bust again. Yeah. And so it goes on. And they actually cite the Venus story that we've talked about a couple of times already. But as we said, it was debunked, but now they're undebunking it. But it's still got a big question mark over it. And I did a bit of research myself, Fred, to see if I could find any other stories that popped up that turned out to be wrong. 2016, a paper in the Astrophysical Journal Letters suggested that galaxy DF44 was highly unusual, containing an exceptionally high amount of dark matter, at least 98%. They did some follow-up studies and found out that it had a normal amount of dark matter because it was a low-mass dwarf galaxy.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah. And so it goes on. Look, I know that a lot of the time this sensationalism is driven by journalists trying to make a headline. And that's what it comes down to. A lot of these papers are published, and the writer of the article that Fenton refers to said it openly. There's a lot of pressure on scientists and astronomers and physicists and people in the science fraternity to get published. And sometimes they'll push the boundaries to get that paper out there. and get the headline. And the popular press will hone in on, we have found life, like a fly to a flame. And that's really, that is the problem. But I'd like to say that most people are astute enough to read beyond the opening paragraph and get to the part where they actually tell you the truth. Because it'll be in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. It is. Yeah. It's nearly always in there somewhere. Yeah. No, I agree with that. So it sounds as though Jonty said the same thing as what I would have said.
He did. Yes. Yes. He was sitting on a wheelchair with a sign and a...
Yes, that's right.
No, he wasn't. Kind of looked like him, though. Never mind. But yeah, Fenton, you're right. It is something that exists. Is it something to worry about? Oh, gosh. Maybe a bit. But I think overall, the science fraternity's got enough integrity and certainly an abundance of intelligence to get past it and stick to the facts. That's how I read it. Yeah, I think that's pretty well all we can say about it. What do you reckon, Fred?
Yeah, there's there's an almost endless list of things. The Apollo astronauts never went to the moon. Another piece of fake news. All of that kind of thing. Yeah. It sort of borders into conspiracy theory some of the time as well. It feeds into the same sort of psychology that lets people believe conspiracies.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, people are always looking for something to believe in, and quite often they're easily duped. And that happens. And yes, the media needs to take a long, hard look at itself and, to use the Australian colloquialism, give themselves an uppercut. And that might solve it. I think so.
Yeah. If you don't know what introspection means, it's time you took a long, hard look at yourself.
That's
sorry, I couldn't resist.
All right, thank you, Fenton. That's a great topic for debate, and I hope we get to talk about it again because it won't stop. It just won't stop. Anyway, it's all good. And thanks to all our contributors. Don't forget to contribute yourself. If you have questions for us, send them to us via our website, spacenutspodcast.com, spacenuts.io. A few turn up on Facebook Messenger and things like that. And when I remember to look, I will dig them up. But best to go through our website, audio or text. We'll take them both. Or you can send us a carrier pigeon if you can find one that hasn't become extinct. And that brings us to the end. Fred, thank you very much.
Great pleasure, Andrew. And we will do it again soon, I hope.
Yes, maybe next week or the week after, or
something like that.
Whenever we can get together. Fred Watson, astronomer at large, and thanks to Hugh in the studio, although he couldn't be with us today, he was too busy generating fake news. Got back to his old career like that. And from me, Andrew Dunkley, thanks for your company. See you on the next episode of Space Nuts. Bye-bye.
Space Nuts. You've been listening to the Space Nuts podcast.
Mission complete, Houston.
Available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player. You can also stream on demand at Bytes.com.
This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.